Hello, flower friends. Welcome to Ask a Flower Farmer. It is your friend in flowers, Lisa Mason Ziegler, and super glad to be here with you guys today. And I wanted to show you this. I don't know if any of you guys, these are dried straw flowers. Look how pretty they are. These are like 2 years old, y'all. And we made a little dried arrangement out of it. I only mention that because my live tonight on the live gardening show is talking about straw flowers. I've got all kinds of stuff set up here to share tonight, and it is just that time of the year where we need to be thinking of the next season, right? So friends, if we've never met before, my name is Lisa Mason Ziegler. And I am the owner, kind of head bottle washer here at the Gardener's Workshop, and just glad to be here with you today. So Ask a Flower Farmer is where you can actually post questions in the comments. If you're here on TikTok, put them in your comments. But if you're on Instagram, put them down in the little question mark bubble at the bottom. That way they don't get away from me before I get to answer them. They'll all be kept where I can see them. And I'll do my best, whether it's about, seed starting, cut flower growing, flower farming business, cool flowers, harvesting and conditioning, whatever you got. Post them in the bubble with the question mark on Instagram, and over on TikTok, just put it in the comments and I will try to go and find them. So friends, things are rocking here at the Gardener's Workshop. I had to bring these out to show to you guys. So, do y'all know what these are? These are soil blocks. This is the way that I start seeds here on my farm. These are the small 3/4 inch blocks. There's 100 of them here on this tray. And these are Billy Balls, Craspedia, which is one of my favorite cool flowers. It's a little yellow ball, and it looks like, up close, it looks like yellow yarrow. I mean, it's got that same type of little individual flower. And I struggled to grow this for years because I didn't know it was a cool season hardy annual. Y'all, we fall planted, and we planted again in very early spring. So if you are curious about soil blocking, that's one of the things I'll be talking about tonight in the live gardening show, because we have continued our soil block maker kit sale inside the app only, and that's inside my shop app over at the Gardeners. You go to your phone's app store, search Gardener's Workshop, and download my shop app. That's where the live gardening shows happen. We have special sales in there and all kinds of fun stuff. Anyway, tonight at 8 p.m., I'll be talking about straw flowers, why they're so significant, an underused cut flower crop, and also about seed starting, which is my favorite method. And these little guys were just so beautiful in there. I have 29 trays of cool season hardy annuals just like this, going strong to be fall planted here in my garden. And if you're not sure about when you plant, what you plant, friends, you need to join me tonight. Both of my books, either Cool Flowers or the Cut Flower Handbook, really tells you the story of how to figure it out for your garden. But most importantly, while I'm waiting, I see we have a couple questions. While we're waiting for some questions to get submitted, I don't know if you've heard, but the BIG Calendar-Journal is coming out this winter. That is the big calendar that I have written about, taught about in all of my books, in all of my courses. We are now producing the calendar with my succession planting instructions for you to customize the calendar to your conditions. And it's coming out. And the deal is this. You can sign up to get on the wait list over at thegardenersworkshop.com. Just search calendar on my website. It'll come up. If you're on Instagram, comment calendar. We'll DM you the actual link. You can put calendar. TikTok will not accept calendar. So sorry, friends over there. You have to go to thegardenersworkshop.com. But here's the thing. The pre-sale opens October 1st. And all pre-sale purchases will include a free live workshop with me helping you go through and find out your succession planting windows Friends, that's where it all starts. So I don't want anybody to miss that. We are just pounding away. It's in the production process now, and I am so excited for y'all to find that. So let's see so I just saw a question I'm going to start over here on TikTok, and then I will go to Instagram because I just saw one fly by. They get away from me in TikTok because they have to go in the comments. All right. Rachel asks, can a Zone 8A Georgia garden use the Cool Flower Handbook even though we don't get very cold weather too long? Yes. First off, I am 8A. So you live in the most prime cool flower place. So here's the thing you need to understand about all of my resources, whether it's one of my books, one of my courses, this calendar. None of them teach you what I do or what I plant and when I plant it. I teach you the equation so that you can figure it out. It is all based on your first and last frost dates and what your lowest winter temperature is. And then I tell you how to figure everything out from there. So yes, the Cut Flower Handbook and Cool Flowers, you can pretty much in Zone 8A, which is the same as me, pretty much plant almost all the cool flowers in fall, which is a huge benefit. And so join me tonight and I will talk more about that. And you can grab a book if you don't already have one, and get started with soil blocking if you aren't already doing that. And so friends, if you're watching me live, I just would love for you to share this with your friends and invite them to come over. All right. So let's see. So somebody's asking about amaryllis. When do I put my amaryllis in the dark to bloom for Christmas? You know, I cannot answer that because I don't grow a lot of amaryllis. But amaryllis to bloom at Christmas, I think, have to be pre-chilled. So I would literally, my friend, put that into a search engine and see what answer you get. But I don't know that they will naturally bloom at Christmas. I think it may be too late for you to do a treatment, but I would ask a search engine that. Sorry, we don't grow them as cut flowers, so I don't have a lot of experience with them. All right, so over here on Instagram, I'm going to where the questions are posted in the bubble with the question mark on it. Let's see, what are some good varieties to grow in tropical climates where the weather is much milder in the wintertime? I live in Hawaii and our summer planting season is usually around October. So, what are some good varieties to grow in tropical climates? So, you didn't say whether you were thinking about cool season hardy annuals or warm season. I will tell you this, if you're tropical, that's the toughest to try to grow cool season hardy annuals, obviously, right? But if you were going to attempt to grow cool season hardy annuals, which are like snapdragons and bells of Ireland and sweet peas and those types of things, the goal is to be able to plant your transplants in the ground 6 to 8 weeks before your coolest period of time. See, cool season hardy annuals want to get established into the coolest soil possible and to get established before they face heat. And I think that would be a really interesting actual experiment. If you do, we have a lot of people in Florida in, deep tropical, not tropical, but deep south that grow cool flowers. You can probably grow cool flowers. It's just a little bit more difficult for you to figure that out. And as far as warm season goes, what you have to remember is that even if, let's just say it is warm enough for you to grow warm season annuals, even in winter, it's a lot about day length. The winter days are shorter, right? And typically many of them will not bloom without a certain number of hours of sun a day. I again would just encourage you, William Palmer, to put that into a search engine and see what comes up. And then gravitate towards those results that end in edu, which means it's from a university or botanical garden or .org. That especially for I know you have botanical gardens over there in Hawaii. That would be a great resource, I would think, for you. All right. I meant to hit the wrong button, y'all. Kim, I saw you show your Rudbeckia triloba and you said you put it in the refrigerator because not germinating. I planted on September 6th and no germination yet. Should I do the same or is it too late for that? My Rudbeckia maya looks great. Thank you, Lisa. So, yes, you can still put it in there. What happens is seeds are looking for their trigger as to tell them to wake up and sprout, right? And so we sowed our triloba, and because I know that it can be one of the slower ones to germinate, we just set the tray in the refrigerator for about a week. And then we moved it to heat when we took it out. And I mean, I wish I'd have brought it out here. It has like 100% germination. Nobody was more surprised than me. I was prepared for spottiness. So no, I would definitely do it. Put it in and see what happens. It just, unless, of course, hopefully you haven't overwatered it. Underwatering it wouldn't be a problem, but overwatering it could have killed the seed. But if that hasn't happened, I think you'll be fine. And thank you for the question, Kim. Brittany, I love that cosmos are cute and bouncy, but mine just won't behave in a bouquet. They aren't wilting, just facing downward. Are there certain varieties that simply don't make good cuts, or maybe I'm doing something wrong? So Brittany, I know exactly what you're talking about, and we have not cut the cosmos this week yet. And I really think that like the heavier ones can definitely have nodding heads. However, I think maybe you're cutting them too late, perhaps, because that's when they get heavy and bend sometimes. And it depends on the weather. If they're at all open and it rains, the water in the blooms make them heavier. And once they nod, I just don't see them coming back up. But I know exactly what you're talking about. And I think it's a lot to do with the weather conditions and the stage to harvest. Sooner is better than later. When rain's coming, it's like I go out and cut everything in the Cosmo patch because there is no really coming back from that. I will say that probably the single varieties, which don't seem to last quite as long as the double ones, don't seem to knot as much because they don't have the flower petal material to get weighted down, right? But we had some of those, last week that I felt that way about, that they were just, the heads were knotted, but I do believe that they got wet and got heavy and went down, and once they go down, they don't come back up. So Brittany, try cutting them actually earlier in the stage, right? My hairy balls seem ready to cut. Do the leaves hold in the vase? I've noticed the blooms fall off. So hairy balls is Gumpacarpus physocarpus. I meant to go cut some of those. And that is it's a tropical butterfly weed. It is not a native at all. And it is a monarch hosting plant. And it'll just keep on doing its thing right up until frost, since it's tropical and when the cold comes and kills it. It gets these big green balls on it, which are the seed pods, which names it hairy balls, and it is very popular. I harvest my hairy balls when they're smaller, more like a ping pong ball, instead of waiting for them to get much bigger. They're not as useful at that bigger stage, and we strip all of the foliage off because it's about the seed pods is what the whole thing is about, right? And you want to expose them. Typically, the foliage doesn't hold up very well for us, and so I typically, because they can weep milky stuff, got to be careful. Some people might be sensitive to that. You need to be cautious and aware of that. But I strip them out in the field. I cut big stems. I cut off the stems that aren't going to be used, and then I strip the foliage it's like I do the whole deal right there in the garden so we can just move on, and it does really well. You can also just cut the balls off and use them to display in a bowl, which is what I'm going to do. Our hairy balls are eat up with aphids. Usually I do a little bubble bath on them out in the garden with a yard sprayer, and it just didn't happen this year. So hairy balls are a lot of fun. They were always a very popular supermarket crop. Supermarket customers just could not get enough of them. They're one of those things. They have thick green stems and these big green balls. I mean, people just put 3 stems in a big vase and that's it. You know, you can use them in bouquets, but I would say that that's probably the most of what we saw hairy balls really used for. So I'm just looking for more questions now. So here on the farm, I just wrapped up with my Flower Farmer Club, where on Wednesdays we do Ask a Flower Farmer. I'm sorry. Wednesdays we do the Sew-In Circle, and we sow sunflowers every week. And I'm coming to that time of the year when we start thinking about, when am I stopping my weekly sowing of sunflowers. We're still going. We grow pro cuts. They're 60 days. My first average frost is mid-November. Pro cuts are day length neutral. That means that they'll bloom, set bud, and bloom even in the short days of fall. And that is just really beneficial, even if they're small, which they will be smaller in the fall because the days are shorter, right? There's not as much growing time if you think about it that way. It just makes perfectly good sense, right? And we continue to, I continue to start them right now. So last week was the official last week that I should have time to get sunflowers in. I push the envelope because I know how beneficial it would be to have sunflowers after after our frost, if it doesn't come on time, which it rarely does anymore. So I started sunflowers today, and I'm going to start them again next week. And we just wait and see. It's just a really good risk to actually take. So I wanted to tell you guys, we have made a new flyer that comes out when you order seeds from us. This is important seed germinations instructions inside. And it's got all of my tips for seed starting. It even has a QR code where you can go and watch free resources. You can hit your, you can hit that with your camera, screenshot it, and hit it with your camera to get to our free resources if you'd like. And that just helps people so much to have the best start. I will tell you from 100% of my experience, almost all seed starting failures are operator error. It is environmental, it's conditions, or we didn't follow instructions. I mean, were you supposed to cover the seed with soil or not? That is a frequent flyer, and all of our seed packets tell you all of that information right on the seed packet, y'all. It tells you everything. Plant outdoors after danger of frost is past and soil is warm. Start seeds indoors 4 to 6 weeks before the planting date. Cover seeds with soil. How many days to expect before it germinates? I can't tell you how many times folks are experiencing troubles and they did the opposite because they just assume that seeds don't get covered, or they do get covered. And so this little tip, so whenever you place a seed order with us, you get one of these in your order. It just becomes as part of it. And we're just having such great comments and responses to it. And again, you can screenshot that QR code to get to the free resources for seed starting. And so let's see. What do you suggest for weed prevention in your peony beds? Currently using ground fabric, not a fan, and you are not alone. So we basically don't use landscape fabric. Fabric is any of that woven or felt back, which is the kiss of death. The woven is what a lot of people use, and a lot of my grower friends are big fans. But for those of us in the South, that fabric is more labor-intensive work than just weeding every week, if you ask me. So I'll tell you the one place that I have used landscape fabric, and funny you should ask, it is specifically for peonies, so the reason that we don't use landscape fabric in the South, besides the fact that Virginia Tech, one of our land grant universities here in Virginia, has said that landscape fabric smothers soil beneath it. After the first couple of years, the pores get blocked in that landscape fabric and water does not penetrate. That means air is not penetrating, so it's not good for that. But in addition to that, if most of us, when we put landscape fabric down, think it's like, okay, weed prevention is what they call it, right? Well, here in the South, our perennial weeds just jump on top and run away. Bermuda grass, nut grass comes right through it. And if you aren't maintaining it every week, it becomes a blooming nightmare. So what I have done, which actually it's been probably 10 years since I did this, and we're getting ready to rip it up and kind of rethink and redo. So my peony patch is a 100-foot long bed. It's a 30-inch wide bed with 100 feet of double row peonies in that bed. We use, organic, either compost or a compost and mulch on that. But the pathways around those peonies is where I use landscape fabric. This was put down, like I said, 10 years ago. And what that did is allowed us to weed eat the edge of that landscape fabric, and then we hand weed. We probably hand weed that bed 3 or 4 times during the year. Right now, as soon as we're finished cool flower bed preps, we'll be cutting our peonies back, down and throwing away the vegetation. You don't ever compost peony vegetation because of the presence of disease, botrytis being the big one. You always just throw it in the trash. Do not put it in your compost heap. Don't keep it on your property. Just burn it, which if you're out in the country, I guess you can do that. We can't. We just put it in the trash for it to go away. We cut it down this time of the year once the foliage is dead, and leave the little stumps. And then we usually put down a weed, because a lot of times there's tree sprouts, where pecan trees are popping. We weed them, put down compost, put a little mulch on top of that, and we call it a day. So that's how I use landscape fabric. I don't use landscape fabric in the pathways of my cutting gardens because you have to sweep the pathways, right? It's a blooming mess. And so that's what we do for our peonies. And ours are so established that there just aren't that many weeds. And if you can just have somebody do a good, thorough mulch well and then do a thorough weeding 3 times a year to stay ahead of it. But we do have some Bermuda grass that's gotten in our peonies now, and that's a real problem. Because the more you pull perennial weeds, it's like pruning them, just like cutting a flower. It just makes them come back twice as strong. So that's really a problem. All right, let's see here. Linda says, I planted zinnia seeds and some of the flowers look like a dahlia. Are zinnias in the dahlia family? That's a good question, Linda. There's actually a variety of zinnias that are called dahlia, the dahlia zinnia. No, they're not in the same family, but there is the dahlia zinnia that has a really big head and is really fully petaled. It's really different. I've grown it before. It's not very easy to use in bouquets because some of them are so big. They're really cool. They're beautiful out in the garden. But they are not related to dahlias, and they come in different colors. And so, yeah, I grew those years ago, and they were pretty fun to grow. Zone 7A, Central Virginia, just got plugs. What do I do now? Harden them off as soon as possible. Baby them till temperatures drop. So I'm assuming you're talking about cool season hardy annuals, right? And it's really about not what your winter hardiness zone is. It's when is your first expected average frost. So mine's mid-November. If you're in Central Virginia, I'm going to just guess and say that yours is probably mid-October or maybe the 1st of November. So you have to know that when plugs come to you from a plug supplier, they have not been hardened off. So you always plan for them to get to you with 2 weeks to actually go through that process. Unpack them, water them in really well, give them a couple days. They get watered every morning usually. Let them get acclimated. Don't put them out in full blasting sun yet. and then get them acclimated and hardened off. And the other thing to do is to be sure to feed them at least weekly according to instructions, because they've been fed probably every time they were watered when they were being grown, right? So yes, you definitely need to harden them off, but your target to plant cool flowers, no matter where you live, is 6 to 8 weeks before your first expected frost. That gives your plants the runway to be planted and then to become established before winter comes and they go dormant, right? So that is the goal. So it really depends on your when your first frost is as to how and when should you plan on getting those in the ground. And again, I am assuming that those are cool season hardy annuals that you were talking about. So that is the biggest misconception. So there's 3 things that cool season hardy annual plantings just revolve around. That is your first fall frost and your last spring frost, and how cold you get during the winter between those 2 dates. Those are the 3 pieces of information. And when you have those, and you go to the internet for that information, you put that into a search engine to say, I live in blank city and state. What is my first average fall frost? And it's going to give you a jumping off point. That's based on like a 10-year window. And that's where it all starts. And all of my resources guide you how to figure that all out for your actual garden. None of my resources, the calendar, the books, the courses, are about what I do exactly when I plant. It teaches you how I figure out when I plant. I don't give you fish. I teach you how to fish, y'all. Literally. That's the truth. So friends, I do not see any more questions here. Remember to join me live tonight for the live gardening show inside our shop app. You can get it. It's free over at your phone's app store at the search Gardener's Workshop and download the shop app. That's where you'll find me live tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time, or you can watch replays over there. It's really a lot of fun. And I'll be highlighting straw flowers tonight and why they are so beneficial. They're a cool season hardy annual, y'all. We're going to look at some dried ones, and we're going to talk about why it's just such a useful flower. Literally, these have been dry for 2 years, y'all. I mean, straw flowers, we don't grow for dry flowers. We dry what perhaps we had left over. Straw flowers are an amazing bouquet filler, or an ingredient, I should say, for summer bouquets. Underused, great colors. You just don't want to miss out on it. So meet me tonight, 8 p.m., the live gardening show. And remember, the big gardening live show happens on Fridays at 12 noon, where we have the big harvest. They've already started harvesting today. They harvest all day tomorrow. We'll have eucalyptus and cosmos and coxcomb and celosia plumes and beautiful marigolds, and just looking around at some of the stuff that's already been cut. And you'll get to see all that on the Friday show. And if you're on TikTok, I go live tomorrow at 12 o'clock, and I'll be showing off baby seedlings. And we will talk about seed starting. All right, my friends, until we meet again, ciao.